later, through 2 3 months, little bit after that, he texts me, or I see on his story or whatever, that he's going to be the vice principal at Abraham Clark High School, which is located right in Roselle, down the street from where I work. So the way that God assembles things is just a blessing in itself. But all that talking I did, I'm gonna do a little bit more talking because Alan sent me a 5-page bio of all the great things that he did. So I'm gonna cut it short a little bit, and I'll let him tell you a little bit more. But Mr. Ashby was born and raised in East Orange, attending East Orange Public Schools, Washington Academy of Music, and Cicely Tyson School of Performing Arts. Upon graduation, Mr. Ashby attended Fairleigh Dickinson in Madison. During his tenure at Fairleigh, he graduated with an undergraduate degree in English and literary studies and a master's degree in clinical and mental health counseling. We don't have enough brothers in mental health counseling, right? In the mental health field generally, but we have a lot of brothers here right now that deal directly in that space, and that's a blessing in itself. He just recently finished his second master's degree in educational leadership last summer from Montclair State University. His play, as always, has been to give back to the community that instilled so much into him as a youngster. East Orange School District is not only a place where he works, but is his home. However, East Orange is not the only place where he has made an impact. This year marks Ashby's 15th year as an educator. Mr. Ashby began his career at Cicely Tyson Elementary in East Orange, where he's worked since its inception in 2009. He has worked in a variety of educational capacities, such as building-based substitute teacher, special education teacher assistant, school counselor, anti-bullying specialist. The list goes on. But during his time as a teacher assistant, Mr. Ashby served as president of the Boys Mentoring Club, called Boys Today, Men Tomorrow, for 4 years, and volunteered coaching the elementary and middle school basketball teams at Cicely Tyson for 5 years. Additionally, Mr. Ashby served as an assistant boys basketball coach for East Orange Campus High School and also serves as a co-commissioner for the East Orange School District's Middle School Basketball League. Mr. Ashby continued to expand his reach in his community. The summer of 2019 marked his first summer of the Infinity Basketball Academy. In only one summer, the Infinity Basketball Academy was home to over 60+ students and was a camp geared to teaching elementary students the game of basketball while fostering positive relationships among students within our community. Finally, Alan, you got a whole bunch of fantastic things you do. I love it, King. He finds time to work outside of East Orange as well, working as a volunteer mentor, prison ministry for the Youth Detention Center in Newark. Alan Ashby has moderated a number of social emotional learning symposiums and was the host for the street renaming ceremony for Cicely Tyson in East Harlem, New York, in September 22. In March 23, Ashby was promoted to vice principal of Abraham Clark High School, located in Roselle, New Jersey. The quote that he decided to go with today, and it speaks volumes, with a quote by Muhammad Ali. Quote, "If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough." And I present to you, Mr. Alan Ashby.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for that introduction. You know, my apologies for the lengthy bio. I was a little tardy presenting my presentation, but in the spirit of we talked about problem solving and the solution base, it is important that we give our flowers and share our successes, because I know we all are here to change the narrative surrounding our black men. So, like our first brother, you know, I'm a very interactive speaker. I want to hear from all of you guys, so throughout the presentation, I will be asking questions, and I want to hear from you because, as Evan said, the synergy in this room is important. The synergy is moving, and I can feel it, you know. And Brother Eric, one of the last words he had on his presentation was purpose. Everybody say purpose. Purpose. Say purpose. Purpose. Purpose gives us direction. Purpose gives us direction. And oftentimes, from what I see as an educator working in various fields, is our young men, our black young men, lack direction. And my sole purpose was to kind of change that narrative. I know my title, as Evan said, was, you know, assistant principal, but I like to call myself a transformational leader because my goal is to get the goodness that's inside of you and transform you into greatness, right? Because we all have that potential. Now, I could tell you this before I begin. God has given us purpose on all of our lives. Let me say it again. God has given us purpose on all of our lives here today. Each and every one of us has God-given purpose. The key is, though, to figuring it out. We have to do the work on ourselves, like Eric was saying, to figure out that purpose. And once we figure out purpose, we'll be on our way. So, gentlemen, I want to ask you guys, what do you think, what is brotherhood? What is that? What is brotherhood? Yeah.
Just being together as black men. That's brotherhood.
Being together as black men. Anyone else? What's brotherhood? A simple bond. Connected. Yes, sir. Trust. Anyone else? Someone you can lean on, right? And the brotherhood, as I spoke to Brother Chaz in the back, shout out to my boy Chaz, who we go back to a brotherhood from our high school days. The brotherhood we shared, I can tell you, saved my life, saved his life. Without brotherhood, I'm not standing in front of you all today. Without trust, I'm not standing in front of you guys today. Without connectivity, I'm not here. I know that because I, like the students that I serve, didn't have a father figure in his life, right? I, like the students I served, was dealing with anger issues and frustration and constant disappointment because the guys that were doing positive things didn't include me, right? I wasn't good enough. So I had to figure things out. I had to find a brotherhood that was tailored to what I was into, right? Evan talked about like-mindedness. I had to find like-minded brothers, older and in the same age bracket, that were willing to take a chance and an opportunity on me so I can change the narrative for myself, right? I hope y'all can see in the connection, changing the narrative for myself, because all these topics here are gonna marry and blend within each other. Once I was able to do that, I had to self-reflect on who I was going to become, right? What type of man I wanted to show the world. Because once you, as Master Yoda says, once you unlearn what you've learned, right, and you're growing into that place, now what kind of legacy do you want to leave for yourself, your family, and for the community that you serve? Evan, you can go to the first one. So, the definition. Okay, we good. So the definition, the Oxford says this, according to Oxford Dictionary, brotherhood is an association, a society, or community of people linked by common interest, religion, or trade. Pretty much everything that you guys talked about. But that importance of it, it doesn't say. See, brotherhood saves lives. Brotherhoods transform lives. And like my guy was saying here, what are we going to do to target the young people, to target our young boys? Because the conversations, which are amazing, is stemming around manhood and the things that us men are dealing with, and that is important. But I'm here to tell you that our young boys are experiencing the same things, and they're not being heard. No one's there to pick them up or give them that word of confidence. No one's there to give them that guidance or that drive and purpose outside of the regular narrative, sports and entertainment. Sports and entertainment. Our boys think the only way to get out of the hood or to find success is through sports and entertainment. Sports and entertainment. That means everything else goes away. How do we change that? Right? How do we get our boys to get on the same page? When my boys come into the school every morning, they got the mad face on. How many of us know that growing up in the hood is difficult, by a show of hands? Is it difficult or is it? That's right. Very difficult. To the point where you have to change your entire exterior to survive. It's worse now. Why is it worse? social media, Instagram, all the negative things that are being machined and marketed to our kids at an exponential rate. Throw on top of that a pandemic. Throw on top of that a lack of social skills. Throw on top of that all these things. Our boys are not being met at, excuse me. So, you can go to the next slide, Evan. Connection again. So what typically happens when brothers are not included and associated with these organizations or organizations like this is they become isolated to themselves. Wait, go back one. Difficult to trust, disappointment, and confusion. So my job is not just to educate our young boys, but to teach them that they have another way. But I have to undo all of these things in order to get there. Because like I said when I was talking, when Brother Marlon was going, we cannot expect or have the expectation of our young boys to become men if their mental is not correct. If the things that are bothering them, they don't have an outlet or an opportunity to share them. See, we're all men here and we've experienced all of those things, but our boys are currently going through it right now. Drug addiction, right? Unsafe relationships, gang affiliations. By the time they get to high school, as I was telling Chaz, it's already too late. It's already too late because that machismo inside of them, they're demanding their respect now. And they're doing it by any means. What is emotional intelligence when I can't feed myself every day? What is the importance of a brotherhood when my father is never around? How can I trust another man when every time I'm expecting something from my father, he doesn't deliver? These are the things that they're experiencing right now. You can go to the next slide, Evan. Collaboration. The ability to build bonds and relationships with those around you. So once we get to the brotherhood piece, now it's how do we work in commonality? How do we work together to accomplish a goal? One way is having brotherhoods like this. The other way is making sure that the things that we discuss don't get lost in the shuffle. We have to take notes, write them down. We have to do that because I'm going to challenge all of you today to make sure that we have the courage enough to go out here and pick up some of our brothers. I'm going to tell you this story real quick. So I would say in 2017 or 2015, I went on a missionary trip to Nairobi, Kenya in Africa. Let me say that again. In 2015, I went on a missionary work trip to Nairobi, to the motherland, to where the creation of man began. That's where I went, right? And I went with my church. And I remember, just all the experiences, but there was many things that stuck out, but the thing I want to share with you today is this word called Sankofa. Say Sankofa. Say Sankofa. Sankofa means it is not taboo to fetch what is behind you and bring him forward. Let me say it is not taboo to look behind and bring the next man forward because the success that is in here needs to be translated to the sons and the fathers that are outside in the community. We have to do the work because we have the skills to do the work. No one is going to save the African-American man except for African-American men. We have to be willing to go out here, boots on the ground, and get it done. Because if we don't, the young men that I'm seeing currently, it's going to be difficult for them to navigate life as men. Now, there's a stat that's out there that says something to this effect. And you guys, I want to encourage you to look it up. But it says, by the time high school, African-American men, by the time they graduate high school, African-American men are reading on an 8th grade level. Reading. Based on, obviously standardized scores and stuff like that, right? And we know that's skewed, but just hear the point. 8th grade reading level. So that means potentially there are men out here that are reading on an 8th grade level. What does that mean? It means that their ability to understand is compromised. Their ability to understand is compromised. So we have all these concepts. We talk about emotional intelligence. We talk about empathy. But the question I want to just give you guys to think about is, do we really understand what those things mean? Do we? Do we really know what brotherhood is? Right? And I know the gentlemen here do. But I'm talking about, do we really know? Are we really willing to put the work in to save our sons, to save those boys? Because it's going to require some tough love. It's going to require some get right. It's going to require us to go above the things that we think of ourselves in order to fix this. It's our responsibility, gentlemen. Let's go to the next slide. As a basketball coach, I used to share with my team, right, because our common goal was to win a game or win the championship, whatever, that together, everyone achieves more. My brothers, we have to learn how to communicate better. We have to learn how to communicate better with our young people. We have to do that. We have to stop trying to speak over their heads. We have to find out the things that they are interested in, because the world is evolving. The world is changing. And we can't allow the world to change, but our narrative as black young men to stay the same. We cannot do that. And I have made a decree with myself that within my ability, I'm going to put everything I can on the table so I can put black young boys in success. Because the key is we need more. We need more men here. We need more groups and organizations like this. And we need to be accepting that, yes, our black boys may come with different skills, different backgrounds, but we have to teach them, guys. We got to mold them. We have a wealth of knowledge in here, but it is good to share it with this, but we have to continue the generational push that we're trying to do to push things forward. Or if we don't, all the progress necessary that we've made will be lost. And that's no good. You can go to the next slide. And lastly, wellness. Wellness is the state of being in good health, especially as you actively pursue your goals. Wellness. Simply put, guys, we have to take care of ourselves. When we're putting the work in, we have to find outlets and resources that allow us to unwind, because unfortunately, the truth is, being a black man in America is dangerous. And the work that we're trying to do can have serious consequences on us if we're not careful. Serious stress that can be life-threatening, right? So wellness is important, right? And not the destructive kind, but the constructive kind. Finding ways that we can grow, finding ways that we can mature, right? Because without that, we're going to be too unbalanced. We're going to be off balance, right? So wellness is one of the tying pieces into this whole thing, because the work that we're doing is going to require a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of push, because the road to success and the road to collaboration is difficult. It's difficult, right? It's not work that's going to guarantee you a lot of money in your pocket or necessary accolades. It's just not. We're doing the work because we understand the importance of that. You can go to the next slide. Some of the things that I've experienced with our young boys: distress, feeling overwhelmed, and just understanding that even some of us here today may still be dealing with some of that trauma, childhood trauma, right? I remember, even with me, just having a son and a wife, and a lot of times, I love being transparent with every group that I speak with, right? Going to counseling, and I have it on my next slide, but there's a negative stigma around that. right? The ability to share, especially share with other men, right? Because we feel shame. We feel like, he's gonna look at us some type of way, or we not gonna vibe on the same path. And it's actually the opposite, right? But we've been taught culturally not to open up, right? And that's a narrative that we have to kind of change, because childhood trauma can visit us when we're grown men. And I know that because I've experienced it, right? So as a father, I saw myself overcompensating with my son because I was so afraid of him feeling the disappointments that I felt as a kid. So I was what they call hovering, right? A hovering father, not allowing him an opportunity to grow and do certain things because I just wanted to be around him so much, right? But I had to learn how to deal with that. I had to go and talk to somebody because I didn't, deal with the things that was kind of bothering me. And also how to communicate and be with a female. Like, I'm a young guy, okay? I'm 38 years old. I've been married for 8 years, all right? Yes, and I'm very, very proud of that. And I could tell you, though, the first 4 years was extremely difficult. And it's because I didn't have a model to show me how to be a husband. I didn't have a model to show me how to be a man. Because I was raised by my single parent mother, who did a heck of a job, by the way, I must say, right? But the lesson I often share is a man is the only one that can raise a man. And unfortunately, the deficits that I grew up with, I had to erase them somehow and kind of hit the reset button. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of brothers out here that don't have the opportunity to hit the reset button on their life because the things that they've learned for whatever reason, that's the only thing they want to adopt. You understand that? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, you go, because I talked about this. Yes, sir, absolutely.
So what I would say to that is, I think the context of what a man is really important, right? And I'm talking to you, but I'm younger than you, right? But how I'm understanding it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm gonna look to you after this, right? But how I'm understanding it is the context of being a man and what it takes to be a man. Yes, you can have the outline of what it looks like to be a man, and you can fulfill those goals, especially when we talk about lists and some of the other conversations we've been having about what we're looking for in a partner, what it takes to be a man, what we're looking for in a woman, things of that nature. But when it comes to a woman raising a man, they can raise an individual to be successful, but the actual takeaways of being a man are not going to be necessarily translated in the correct way that it should be when you're talking in that same context. But I see a few other hands.
Yeah, I got you. Let's keep it going.
Just to piggyback off of what he's saying, and this is no shade to strong women, and we often confuse strength with capacity. For example, some of the lessons that make men, some women don't have the capacity to palate as women. Not to mention, we need to remember that the concept, like he's saying, or the context of men comes with lessons that women normally aren't in a position to teach. And some men don't even get to teach their sons. You know what I'm saying? So when you hear that statement that women can't raise a man, or women don't know how to, or whatever, it's not that they're not strong enough to. It's the capacity often is missing, because sometimes men, and we sometimes use the word men loosely. We believe an adult male by default of 18 is a man, and we know that there's lessons that actually make men. And I give you this example, and this goes on a lot. I run a psych department in the prison. Many times, discipline is taught in a manner that isn't significant enough to deal with life where discipline is required. And what happens sometimes is you see men who have been taught discipline, but when it's time to ensure that your credit is good, that your family's safe, that your rap sheet is clean, there's holes in the discipline. And when we talked about processing feelings and things like that, sometimes you need the lesson that mom doesn't want her son to have to actually become men. Sometimes you'll see moms pick boys up off the floor and not let them get up. Not necessarily because she's not strong. It's because her capacity to nurture is far greater than her capacity to discipline. You know what I mean? So it's definitely no shade to women. I know some women that are significantly stronger than some men. But that lessoning, the lesson and the specificity to the lessons come from men that have grown into men. Most women don't go through those lessons in life. And unfortunately, we have too many women that are getting a taste of what manhood looks like. So there's a culture of, that blend. And please know, I'm definitely not saying anyone's mom or any woman can't do it out of, the strength. But the capacity often is what makes that difference. You know what I mean?
So let me ask you, just to piggyback off that, let me just ask you, you were raised mainly by your mother,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Do you feel like you're missing anything?
Well, that's a very good question, and thank you guys for sharing. So I'm gonna just go back while I answer. I'm gonna be honest with you because I believe in authenticity and transparency. For quite some time, I did feel something was missing. There was a strong yearning and desire just to want to be with my dad, and to this day, it's still there. Now, I can also share with the brothers, right? My dad and I has mended our fences. You know what I mean? To where we can talk, we can communicate. But growing up, absolutely. I could tell you this also. One of the driving forces to me playing basketball was really to get acceptance from my pops. So I was playing so he can see me. I felt invisible. So as much as all the love and nurturing and the goodness that my mother surrounded me around, she put me in the Boy Scouts, I was in JRTC, everything. It was still, when I got home, I knew it was just me and her. And there was something else that I needed to see that I didn't have a picture of. And then what happens is, as you're living your young male life in college, sometimes mistakes can happen that you can't erase. It leaves you permanent scars, right? Because I didn't have someone really guiding me navigating relationships with a female, how to discipline myself in the classroom. Because my mother, and I'm not, again, let me preface, I'm not saying anything disparaging about strong women, but there was only but so much my mom could give me. You understand? And there was a point in my life where I'm figuring out manhood on my own. And I'm like, what is this? Right? Because this seems difficult. Manhood to me was watching Jay-Z. Manhood to me was playing basketball and kicking it with my dudes. That was manhood. And then to some of our points about relationship, I knew if I got a bad chick on my side and I had a little bit of money in my pocket, then I'm straight. But I'm still living at my mother's. That is not adding up, right? And my mother was always gonna be there for me, but there's gonna come a time, it came a time in my life where I had to be on my own. I had to get with a guy and some good brothers to say, yo, Al, come on, bro. What is this? This ain't right. Or you gotta change this because you're getting ready to be a man. If you plan on having a family, you can't still be here mentally.
I apologize for interrupting you.
You good, bro? Spit. Come on. This is what we do.
There's a difference between a male and a man. My father was in the house, but he was not available.
My father ran the streets, sold drugs. I remember 9 years old, my father handed me a joint. Hit this little nigga. My mother was always the breadwinner. My father didn't have somebody to show him how to operate as a man. My father didn't know how to teach us how to be a man, even though he was in the house. So even though I had my father in the house and he overdosed 8 years ago, I had my father in the house, but those traits that he had in terms of allowing, not stepping up in, as a role, because what makes us a male? What's between our legs? Let's just keep it 100. Women absolutely have the capacity, but there's certain intangibles that they cannot instill or teach us. I'm divorced. My ex-wife don't know nothing about how to take care of man's hair. So why are you telling him to cut his hair, getting his hair cut every week? Like, it's supposed to grow in. Like, it's certain things. Like, and I'm not going to try to tell my daughter how to do female stuff. Correct. So that being said, as a result of watching my father, my mother taking care of my father, my mother being the breadwinner, my father barely bringing home checks, as a young adult, I was in mama's house in the basement. As a result, my younger brother is 44 years old. Not to say it's nothing wrong. Sometimes when life happens to us, we got to go back and we got to rebuild ourselves. My brother in the crib right now with my mother, eating up all the food, 300-something pounds, being a burden. My father, I love my father, but my father was not equipped to teach me how to be a man, so I had to figure it out. That being said, going back to what we were saying about a woman, absolutely a woman is strong, they're capable. A lot of situations, the mother don't have a choice. They do the best that they can. But there is something that is going to be lacking, intangibles that's going to be lacking if a young man does not have a man in his life, whether it be father, whether it be mentor, whether it be whatever, that he's going to lack. But that's going to cause problems as he develops. Like Al had to figure it out. One of the demises of my marriage is because I grew up in a household where there was no communication. We ain't talk about nothing. Thanksgiving, we ate, everybody went in their room and closed their doors. So that being said, there's a difference between a man versus a male, and it's vital for young men to understand, and it's vital for us as men to understand that we can't lose sight of this. We can't get caught up in our jobs, being a provider, and expecting to leave the children home all the time and not doing what we're supposed to do. We got to pour into them. So I'm on my soapbox. I just wanted to say that. There's a difference between male versus...
You good.
And I just want to add one more part to that. You see what's missed when you realize what's missed when you see the opposite of what you had. So when you talk to a young man or you talk to someone your own age that did grow up with a father compared to you who didn't grow up with a father, you realize, oh, snap, that's what I was missing. You know, oh, how'd you get, well, my dad taught me how to da-da-da-da. Oh, dang, I was never taught that because my dad wasn't there. Or, you know, even you said your dad was in the home, but he wasn't around. Oh, well, just realizing that this young man, same age as me, he was actually taught by his dad rather than, oh, I see my dad working all the time, so that's what I know I should do. Compared to, oh, my dad taught me how to, you know, he taught me how to change a tire. He taught me how to, you know, change my oil. He taught me how to do this, that. Compared to, oh, I just saw my dad do it, so I think I can do that. So I know that's how I should be. You know, there's a difference there too.
Let's keep this going. Let's go.
You know, and I'm gonna share this because that's right on the. Hope I don't make anyone feel upset, but you know, I have a friend who, his father and mother and my father and mother, they're still together, still in our lives, and we often talk about our friends who didn't have their fathers in their life. And they often come to us for a lot of the things that I don't go to men for. And it's not joking on it, but we sometimes be sitting there like, this man don't know how to fix his brakes. You spent $400 on brakes. The hell you spend $400 on brakes? They $15 on Amazon. And we in there joking, and we're thinking like, this is a joke, but then there's a piece of it is that this is where I was going with the capacity. That's the piece where it's like, I know you don't want him out there getting his hands dirty, Ma, and probably getting tetanus from a rusty bolt. Men are gonna say, please come outside and take this process. You may not like it, and it's okay. And in that process is this comfort with the discomfort of the lesson. And I struggle hard sometimes trying to get some women, especially single mothers, that are doing it, to say, hey, look, you at your absolute best still got a lot to learn for that process. So it's not that they can't do it. It's that by the time you can do it, Mom, the child might be 40. So it's not, like how many lessons can you really get in life in which role you're in? You can't get all the lessons of being a woman and all the lessons of being a man to be able to raise one. By the time you start realizing you need to start getting the lessons for men, this child gonna be how old? And then they, and it breaks my heart when I see what's going on in the prison system, because there's easy fixes that just no one knew to fix. And a lot of times it's like, wait, where is your dad in this? Your dad didn't teach you the discipline men should have. Your version of discipline was, I'm gonna not do certain things. But sometimes discipline is knowing, hey, wait a minute, this is uncomfortable and I gotta handle things better. Tempering things, not just, do it or not. And a lot of times, the female impression of what men are is what some children end up getting from their mothers. It's like, hold up, this is what I know a man would teach a child or a boy, so now I'm gonna say this to the child, and it comes off different. Because I didn't learn discipline from beatings and things that some women think I learned discipline from. I learned discipline from my pops just saying, no, you're gonna go fix it. No, I'm not gonna tell you how to do it. My mom is like, you gotta teach him every step. No, if he can't figure it out, he'll be out there all night.
Yes, come on.
You know what that taught me to do? Use my brain. So competence was built in the process that my pop said. Mom is saying, listen, you need to show him. Really, yeah, that's true until I was 8. At about 8 years old, I need to start practicing using my brain. I thank God my father was like, look, your mom be babying you too much with that. Go your ass, excuse me, go yourself out there, and I don't care if it takes all day. It's not that hard to figure out. And once you practice that, now there's the becoming a man. And a lot of times that's what's missed when it says why or why not, why a woman can or can't raise a man. The lessons don't come the way they think it came.
And that's a life skill for a man.
Yup.
Be
Yup.
able to figure it out.
Yes, sir.
No, you ain't got to bring my.
No, I'm going back. I'm going back in. No, I'm going back in.
All right. Spiritual discernment moment. All right, I'm a preacher, so I got to address something. So, we as the brothership, we just heard this brother right here say something, and I'm looking at you, Eric, say something about his brother sitting in the house eating up all mom's food. That was you. What are we going to allow him to take away to address that issue?
I'm not telling anybody what to do. I just know it's because all right. So there's Eric, and then my fault. There's Eric, and then there's direct. Professionally, when you hear someone's 44 years old, stay at home with mom, overweight and things like that, we first have to do an assessment for things like depression. We have to do an assessment for mental capacity. So just so because let's say we already know it's just, what it is. We want to be thorough because we sometimes, as men, quick to jump to a conclusion on what it is, and we underserve each other, right? So it sounds like there's a whole easy fix, but once it goes back to that accountability and then the network of people who hold people accountable, because he's only able to do what he's allowed to do.
And that's a relationship between mom and
Well, I would have to. You would have to take a time to see what it is. But I promise you, takeaway wise, one of the things people don't want to do is address the why. Yes. Because other people feel vindicted or whatever. And sometimes people get mad that you're even questioning them. But hey, hey brother, hey mom, why do we do this? And you bring it together. Because a lot of times people are so scared to address the elephant in the room because of the outlet, the defense mechanism. But there's ways of joining with it. It's like, I'm not here to chastise, I'm trying to get with his work. Yeah. How do we get this right unless we actually believe this to be true? And do a fair assessment. Because I'll be honest, sometimes moms don't want to be in a situation where they're not moms anymore. Sometimes that's the case.
Yeah.
I don't know what the dynamic is, but I would say get somebody third party to just come and take a little touch up and be involved. Because sometimes we be like, we know the problem, and then we roll up with our own lives and do it. You can join with it to see if you can fix it. If you can't, you move on. But I always recommend when I see stuff, especially with black men. It's like I'm not gonna preach, but you gotta leave the nest to be a man. You know where that comes from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Yep.
when you still there, there's a big question. But sometimes there's a mental health capacity. We just completely shut out. Like, oh no, he's just full of it, and never have done an assessment. Just get it assessed.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
check it, quick, easy.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I appreciate this dialogue because this dialogue is important. It's necessary. You hear the perspective in the room, right? We hear the objectivity in the room. So now, after the discussion, it's about the work. We got to go out here and put the work in now. This is what I mean. This is just a small sip. I got 2 more slides, and then I'm going to go. I just want to inspire you guys just a little bit. So Evan told you about the end result, right? But I got to take you through the process. So it was freshman year, 2003, legit 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Freshman year, I had a .9 GPA. Kicked off the basketball team. On the brink of failure. And through those failures, I learned something about myself. To Eric's point, I gotta figure it out. I gotta build some type of capacity. I had to be left on that island where, you know what, you gotta decide whether you're gonna just be something different, you're gonna be about change, or you're gonna be another statistic. You're gonna represent something good about your culture. And I could tell you 20 years later, after setting goals and dreams about myself, I'm standing here as a school administrator of a high school in Roselle. And it's not about my accolades and the things that I've accomplished. It's really to empower you to don't let anyone tell your story. You are the author of your story. You're the one that's the driving force of your story. You understand that? Because I experienced racism. I experienced people telling me you'll never be an assistant principal because you have a counseling background. And then the pandemic happened. And then mental health became something of importance. And then you know what I told them? I said, nah, there's a paradigm shift that's happening. And that in order to be an effective leader, you have to have the capacity for mental health. You have to have it now because there's something inside of empathy. There's something that's inside of self-awareness. There's something that's inside of self-management that we all have to unlock to be the best version of ourselves. Last slide. Let's go one more slide. Oh, keep going, keep going. Yes, I want to talk about the decree of brotherhood. So I just want y'all to kind of repeat after me because this is the charge that I have for myself and for all of you guys, okay? So gone are the days of living to survive. In order for the man to live, the boy must die. The brotherhood is a force destined for greatness. Our power together must not be relinquished. I will provide wisdom and guidance to the youngins in need and teach him the importance of the brotherhood decree. That's my time, y'all. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Let's just give brother Allen another round of applause. So we're gonna take another break. It's time to grub. Anybody hungry? Anybody hungry? All right, y'all don't seem hungry. Y'all look like y'all want to. Oh, all right. So look. Before we eat, I want to have. So real quick, before we eat, I want to have Pastor Spivey come up, Reverend Spivey come up and just bless the food.
Give yourselves a hand. Man, this is awesome. This is awesome. I mean, I mentioned to a couple of brothers, we don't do this enough, man. We don't do this enough. And when they see us, they don't see this. So make sure you keep that in your head when you leave here today and when you come here tomorrow for service to close it out. Before I bless the food, if I buy some fish, is anybody gonna eat fish sandwiches? Huh? All right. So that's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna disappear for a minute, but I'm gonna come back with some fish sandwiches. All right. All right. And that's the treat from Deacon Everett and Reverend Spivey and the Citadel family. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for this meeting of the minds, this fellowship of the brothership. And our prayer is, number one, the food that you provide for us is nourishment for our bodies for the rest of the day. Number two, that when they see us, they realize that we are kings in the kingdom, representing the kingdom. Father, bless us. Continue to look out for us. In Christ's name we pray, amen. Amen. All right. I shall be ready.